Welcome to Friday Flip on the Becoming You Again podcast. Every Friday, I take your divorce problems, conundrums, and questions and do a quick flip around to empower you to show up as the best you after divorce.
Welcome back to Friday Flip. Margot asks, what are some of the books and podcasts that have helped you through your divorce? I find this podcast helpful, but would also appreciate some other options too. Margot, thank you for your question. I agree. Of course, this podcast will be helpful to anyone going through a divorce, but I also think it's nice to have options, and I would never come at you and tell you that my way is the only way, because I just don't believe that that's true. I think that there are so many people and things and experiences, methods and tools and ideas that can be used to help us. I don't use just one method in my own personal growth and evolution, and I don't think that should be the case for you either. So the more the merrier. Here are some of my favorites that have helped me or continue to help me, and maybe you'll find some value in these as well. So let's start with books. My very favorite book right now is Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. I did a podcast episode on this book a week or two ago, but this book offers so much in terms of tools and techniques to help any woman feeling any kind of stress in today's world. I love it. I definitely think every woman needs to read this book. Another book that I find very helpful, and I usually read at least once a year, is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. If you've never read this book or anything by Glennon, you will be pleasantly surprised. Glennon is a master writer and storyteller and talks about her own personal experiences. And in this book specifically, Untamed, she talks about her experience with divorce and falling in love and how she and her ex-husband and her new wife and their children kind of all navigated through it. And it is a beautiful, amazing book. And again, it's one of those ones that I just think that every woman should read. Whether you're going through a divorce or not, it is very empowering. But if you are going through a divorce, or if you've gone through a divorce and you haven't read this book, I highly recommend reading it. And one last book that I have listened to over and over again that really opened me up to feeling empowered in my own life is called Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. This is the same Shonda Rhimes who is the creator and writer of so many things we've all heard of, like Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder, Scandal, and of course Bridgerton. And so you know how talented of a writer she is. This book will not let you down. But what I find so great about this book is Shonda is taking us into her world and how she was able to live a year of empowerment and reconnecting with herself in a deeper way by living her year of yes. It is such a good book. I, again, highly recommend this to anyone. Okay, so let's go on to podcasts. My podcast list is actually pretty eclectic, but there are a few that I think might be useful to you in your own self-improvement journey. My first pick is Smartless. This is a podcast hosted by Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. They interview lots of famous people and talk about their stories of how they overcame struggles and how they got to where they are. And then they talk about lots of other weird and funny things. It's a really fun and funny podcast, but they also go deep in many ways. And you will definitely come away with some golden nuggets of wisdom from people who we normally look at their lives and think, ugh, their lives must be so perfect. They have nothing, no struggles, nothing ever goes wrong. But in reality, their lives are not perfect. And they offer a lot of tips and stories of ways that they have overcome their own struggles. And then it will also make you laugh every time you listen to it. The next podcast that I would recommend is Glennon Doyle's podcast. Yes, I am recommending her book and her podcast. She's just that good. Her podcast is called We Can Do Hard Things, and it is hosted by Glennon and her wife, Abby Wambach, and Glennon's sister, Amanda Doyle. And they do all kinds of interviews and answer listeners' questions about all kinds of topics, from anxiety to perfection to navigating families to healing to, I think they just had an episode come out a couple days ago about cults. Like, you name it, they've got a podcast for it, and it is really great. And you will learn so much about yourself. You will laugh, you will cry, all of the things. And then lastly, I would recommend a fellow coach's podcast that I find very enlightening. I enjoy it so much and I learn so much from this woman. She is incredibly smart, incredibly open-minded, and I just love her so much. The podcast is called Unfuck Your Brain, and it is hosted by Cara Lowenthal. She is a self-proclaimed, I would say, but I would also call her this, modern-day feminist. Every time I listen to her podcast, she is continually blowing my mind in terms of opening myself up to new ways of thinking about the world and society and myself as a human and myself as a woman. I love this podcast so much, and if you haven't listened to it yet, definitely I would recommend checking it out. All right, so there you have it. Those are some of my favorites when it comes to books and podcasts to help you move through your own self-evolution as you go through your divorce. Thank you so much for your question, Margot. That was a fun one. I will talk to you next week.
That's your Friday Flip. Stay tuned for the weekly podcast episode that comes out every Monday. And remember, if you want more one-on-one help from me as your divorce coach to help you create an even better life than when you were married, then you need to schedule your free consult with me by going to www.karennelsoncoaching.com. Remember, that's Karen with an I.